iOS 26.4, Apple Podcasts video episodes, business unlocked. Now, I know you're here because you've heard about the new Apple Podcast video experience, which just happened as of yesterday. I wanted to come here and talk about it yesterday, but if you can hear my voice, just so you know, I have a little cold, so excuse the voice, but I had to make sure that I do this because if I don't, it would be a disservice to you. And I want you to know because you listen to podcasts every time. So if you're listening to this and you have the iOS 26.4, congratulations. Check it out. I'm sure you're loving it. There's so many new things on the platform. It's not just podcasts. It's way more than that. Even your music library has changed. There are a lot of things that have been updated in the new app version. So that's what I've been enjoying since yesterday. I wanted to take some time to look into it. I haven't watched an Apple video episode before even coming in here just to make sure that it's actually active, it's actually working, and it is. So I have some links to share with you, and I always do research. So whenever I come here, I always want to make sure that you get the information straight up and also officially. So I'll start off with the Apple newsroom, of course. So I'll put the link in the chat, and you can also click the link in the description to see this. All right, there we go. So as you may know, or if you didn't know, Apple Podcasts, from what I'm reading, just so you know that it's coming from Apple too, is that Apple Podcasts will enable or has enabled HLS video podcasts with a best-in-class experience for creators and users. Now, it's like a HTTPS, but HLS, which now means HTTP live streaming. So that's what the L and the S is for, live streaming. And it's going to be focused on high quality. When you think about this information, just take it in. Now, the Apple Senior Vice President of Services, Mr. Eddie Q, mentioned that 20 years ago, Apple helped take podcasting mainstream by adding podcasts to iTunes, and more than a decade ago, we introduced the dedicated Apple Podcast app, which you're listening through. If you're listening through here or any other platform too, podcast-wise. So he also added and said, today marks, which was yesterday, marks a defining milestone in that journey by bringing a category-leading video experience to Apple Podcasts. We are putting creators in full control of their content and how they build their business while making it easier than ever for audiences to listen or listen to or watch podcasts. Now, you can read all that information below. Now, here's something that's very interesting that I want to highlight. It's not going to be every podcasting platform or hosting platform, rather, that's going to get that. Hey, Alex and Zena, thanks for being here. It's not only going to be just for anyone. They've selectively chosen specific podcast hosting platforms for a reason. Because when I think about this, before I even go into the platform and the names, when you look at podcasting, especially from Apple has been heavy on audio for a long time, right? We're talking 2005 plus, down till now, 2026. And you've been seeing podcasting, you've been seeing Apple Podcasting, you've seen iTunes, you've seen everything. You've seen how it's all been working for you. Podcast-wise, I even know that some people that use Apple devices don't even use the Apple Podcast app. There's sometimes I will go to someone's phone and I'll check, and you know how you open a new app with a new card or an onboarding card? It looks like that. What's new in podcasts, or welcome to Apple Podcasts. Now, not many people use Apple Podcasts, but it's available for free. So imagine how many Apple phones, how many Apple devices you have. So don't just think about the Apple Podcast app. Think about the Apple device and not just an iPhone. Think about a tablet. Think about, the list is endless. There's Apple Watch, you can look at that. There's iMac. So if you're looking at podcasting in 2026, the goal is to be on a podcast that hosts platforms and distributes well, so that you can also be a well-informed producer or host. Now, because they're selected a specific number of platforms for now. It might open up, we don't know. But I've always talked about IAB certified, Interactive Advertising Bureau certified. Because Apple has partnered with a couple of companies, you can already tell that if you use Spotify for Creators, which I'm sure a lot of you may know of, and when you look at that specific tool, right, that specific tool is going to give you more details over time, right? So when you think about your content, you want to think about your content based on traffic and based on connections with people. So we're going to talk about this and really bring this into place. So I see we got a hand from Wesley. Thank you for being here. We'd love to hear from you. This is an open conversation. I want to know if you've heard about it. Put it in the chat. Let me know. And these are some platforms to really consider. Spotify for Creators is one of the platforms that are not going to have Apple Podcasts episodes, which makes sense because you're using Spotify for video already. When you upload an episode on podcasts, for the longest I've been on podcasts, this is going to be my 7th year podcasting. And I have over 620 episodes across, and you can click the link above or just go to wedon'tplaypodcast.com to check it out and see the 12 seasons we have available. So by streaming across 160 countries, looking at podcasting from a long-term view, you know that video is going to be a big deal. You know why this is going to be big? Because it's not just Apple Podcasts. I'm thinking advertisements. I'm thinking ads. I'm thinking pre-rolls. Right now, if you have a podcast and you're listening to ads before you listen to an episode, just imagine if you're going to use podcasts with video and there's going to be an episode right before. That's a huge deal. Welcome, Amanda. So you have to look at it from a long-term perspective, and Apple is giving you this opportunity to do it. Now, here are the platforms that Apple has partnered with that's going to focus on complete control of their content and monetization. There are only a few. There is Acast, there's Art19, that's an Amazon company, that's the one that I'm on. There's Triton's Omni Studio, there's SiriusXM, inclusive of SiriusXM Media, AdsWiz, and Simplecast. These are the only platforms as of right now that Apple is going to allow to have this going. And even the Art19 CEO, Mr. Jove Matei, thank you so much for what you do. Appreciate you for the community that you share amazing insights with. And I'm excited to see where this is going to take us into the new year, especially this year to begin with. Video is the next chapter for podcasting. That's what he said. Simplifying audio distribution and empowering creators with flexible monetization solutions are what Art19 was built on, and now video deserves that same experience. Working with Apple Podcasts to bring video distribution to publishers is a significant moment for creators who've been waiting for this. This is the CEO speaking. So when you think about podcasts and growth and the time that we're spending, welcome Foluke, Morrison, Sanath, I see you as well. Godfather, thanks for being here too. These are important things to factor in. So if you're not on any of these platforms and you have a podcast already, don't worry. Don't just jump ship because you don't want to just do that and without doing it. You have to plan ahead. You have to think about it, and not all platforms are free either. So you also have to think about that too. If you're going to monetize in 2026, there are platforms that you'd have to consider, and these are platforms that you can be in and you can use to build your own capacity. So right now, this is one thing you can do as a business owner, and ask yourself, if I'm going to do this for the next couple of months, how much can I be able to gather? Because podcasting is one of the most organic ways of reaching your audience, especially because people are searching based on location, topic of interest, and I can call it behavior, right? They could spend time on Apple, on Spotify, on Podcast Addict, on Castbox. There are a lot of platforms that you can use. So if these are the specific platforms that Apple has worked with, it makes a big difference. Now, let me say it this way too, to know why it's very important. If you think about it, right, Spotify, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Spotify partnered, welcome Martina, Spotify has partnered with, in fact, let me just send you guys the link because I feel like before I even say this, I want you to read this with me, because when you're able to know these things early, it's going to be good for you to create and build that capacity. Now, Spotify has partnered with Netflix. I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm going to put the link in the chat. And Amanda says, what if we don't have Apple Podcasts? I'm with Ramon. Android is the future. Here we go. Sorry, I just can't have coffee this. That's a good one. So if you don't have Apple Podcasts, that's fine, right? Because if you have an Android, then you may not use Apple Podcasts. But here's the thing. Apple Podcasts recently, it's not so recent, but this happened maybe a year or two. It should be less than a year really, but it's very new. You can Google this. Apple have opened up their platform to the open source, just like you can go to Spotify and you don't need to use an Apple device or Android device. You can just go to Spotify. That's the same thing they've done with Apple Podcasts. So if you have a Mac, then you'll be able to have that. If you have an iPad, you'll have access to it. As long as you have an Apple product, you'll have access to Apple Podcasts. But if you don't use Apple at all, that's fine. But if you have a podcast, then you'd want to also put your videos there if you'd want to. Because I think about podcasting now, podcasting is private. When people watch your YouTube video, it's public. You can watch it on TV, you can watch it in your phone, in your car. It's open, right? There's no access, there's no login apart from your Google login. But apart from that, you're in. Now with podcasting, it's specific. You're able to now change things. Even with this new iOS 26.4 feature, they have an AI-powered music playlist search box, which is so dope. I tried it out. Check my stories if you want to see what I did. And when you look at it, it will say, oh, I want to listen to this type of music. It's going to give you all the songs. You don't have to search for them. It will ask you, do you agree? And then it's going to publish and add it to your playlist, and you're going to be able to listen to music. Now, imagine if the same thing starts happening for podcasts, which I believe is going to come, and they're testing with Apple Music because I believe it's a wider network, broadband servers and all that kind of stuff, protocols. With Apple Podcasts, imagine say, hey, I want to listen to the top podcast about da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then your episode is part of that. It's not happening right now. You're welcome, Amanda. It's not happening right now, but it could happen. I'm just saying these things because I watch the trends. I may be completely wrong, off topic, off mark, but I could also be spot on. I could be right on. So we just don't know. And either way it goes, the goal is to improve, is to advance, and it's to get better. So if you're using these platforms, it's going to be very exciting. Now, if Spotify has partnered with Netflix, what does that say? Apple has now introduced their own system. So just imagine that Apple has introduced their own system of video podcasting with a whole new video codec, quote unquote, where you can actually switch from audio to video and back to video if you want to, video to audio, audio to video, the same way you can do on Spotify. So imagine when you start doing that with Apple Podcasts, people start listening to you, they start connecting with you, you start showing them cooking tips, or you start showing them around your city. Think about it like a nice, I can call it a nice private way of communicating with your community. Because if I've been listening to you for so long and then now I have a video episode, do you know how much more traffic you can get just because you have a video on that they can switch back to audio from video? So this is going to be big. And knowing that Apple is doing this so they can compete with YouTube, compete with Spotify, because of course you already know YouTube has podcasts. There's Spotify, there's Amazon somewhere in the mix. So just imagine Amazon Prime Video has podcasts, and you hear that story one day because Netflix has it now with Spotify. So when you look at all these companies, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What is the same difference? What is the goal? The goal is to build your capacity and also build your tenacity by creating episodes that will help more people to find your podcast more applicable over time. And the only way that can happen is when your episodes are titled in very semantic ways that people can find you. And if they're searching for something, there's a way to do that. There's a way to actually search for traffic and search for keywords and search for podcast topics. There's a whole different algorithm entirely with Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts was once iTunes before it became what it is today. So if we're looking at Apple Podcasts for 2026, welcome Petros and Jose. If we look at Apple Podcasts as the future to build our fan base, to build our market base, to build our thought leadership, to build things. Imagine doing a Zoom room or a Loom video or doing something that was actually recorded on a DSLR camera or recorded somewhere, and you actually, instead of putting it on YouTube, you could put it on YouTube, but also add it to your podcast show. That's a big win because more people will listen to your podcast episode and binge there because it's private than go on YouTube and get distracted by a video, a comment, a link, a button, something just popped up as an ad. You get distracted. And that doesn't mean you don't get distracted on Spotify, but the stickiness on Spotify, the stickiness on Apple is way higher than YouTube when you think about podcasts. When you now think about general watching, videos, binging shorts, all that good stuff, YouTube still has, of course, a totally huge fan base and a wide connection. So if you know that Google owns YouTube, and you know that Google is connected to Amazon, also has strings with Spotify and Apple, when you think about ChatGPT and all these platforms that say, hey, what's the best tool for this? Or what's the best podcast for that? And you're getting results from your podcast episodes. Let's say you did a 15-minute tutorial on something and you shared your screen. And now that whole video is live on an Apple podcast or Spotify video episode. Someone's watching that as a case study. You don't have to send them an email. You could send them an email, but send them the link to that place. Or if it's personalized, maybe do it that way. But you see where I'm trying to go with this? You can actually show more than you can tell. Because with these type of new tools and this type of new things that are happening, it's going to get to a time when you're just going to be watching things happen and you're like, oh, okay, another one. So it's good to think about these things right now. And if you think about how we're going in 2026, with all these platforms that are connecting together, it tells you where creators are going to be focusing on in 2026 for their podcasts, right? The podcast app, if you're aware of this, the podcast app previously supported video podcasts. It used to, right? But now the iOS 26.4 feature is a streamlined native option for creating and monetizing video podcasts. That's according to macrumors.com. So if you are looking at this, and right now it's available for testing with iOS 26.4, iPad OS 26.4, and Vision OS 26.4, iOS 26.4 is going to be released in the spring. So I have a beta program with Apple, so I'm able to see this before they happen. So I installed, it took about 30 minutes to, update the app or update my OS on my phone. So now I'm operating under 26.4 iOS. So I can come here and talk about what's happening and what's changing, what's going on. And even Clubhouse today released a new thing called Karma. It's a new feature where you can actually see where you rank based on your, I can call it your influence. And it focuses on the positive value that you bring to Clubhouse, and the higher karma you have, the higher you build the trust, and it's focused on a lot of things in there. So right now, it's building. I'm in a top percentage right now, and it just started today. So these are new things that are happening, and we're just watching them happen. But just imagine if we can build it for a longer term, it can be a much wider scope for us. Amanda, you have a question. So here's my question. Let's see. What is the difference making a podcast or just uploading your segment to YouTube? Great question. You're so knowledgeable. You should have 1,000 people in your room. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Sometimes, the gems are those diamonds you can't find. You have to really look for them. So I'm glad we're here. I should have done this room earlier today, but I said I want to give it some time because I've been having a cold and I didn't want to come here with the sniffles. So I wanted to make sure that I feel a little better to now connect with you, because I said I'm not going to sleep until I talk about this thing. And I even did a search on Apple. I did a search on Listen Notes. I did a search on Spotify. And I'm like, who's talking about this? Nobody. Maybe one or two out of how many podcast shows we have in the world? 4 million. So you know how unsaturated it is? It's big. So you can definitely do this as well for yourself. Welcome, Vicky. So to your question, Amanda, The difference between making a podcast, and I'll make it very simple. The difference between making a podcast and just uploading a segment to YouTube means that if you upload a video on YouTube, that's where it stays. If you upload a video on your podcast show, which means you use your Spotify for creators, or you use your Buzzsprout, or use something, and you upload your audio or video. Now, since we're talking about video, if you use one of the select platforms or use Spotify and upload a video, and you've distributed your RSS feed to different multiple stations, which does not happen automatically, you would have to manually do it. And there are about 40 of them out there, 20 to 40 platforms you can submit to. So just imagine when you start submitting to all these RSS feeds, it's like distributing your product. Just like if you sell candy, or if you sell a product, if you sell food, or if you sell something, and you know that there are, let's say, 40,000 stores in the US, and then let's say you want to talk about the top 10% or the top 1%, and you're distributing to those specific places. If I came to that place and I don't see your product, it's because I could not distribute to that chain, or I could not distribute to that market. But if I have it there, it means that I was accepted within the market share, and now I can be able to build affinity within the community. So what that really means is that with your podcast, if you have an RSS feed, which is one, and you've hit publish, and prior you submitted to, let's say, 5 platforms, let's say Amazon, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Listen Notes. There are many out there. Let's just give you those options. Now, when you hit publish, all those platforms is now to the power of 5. So you, the creator, with the same video, you and I have the same video, but you posted yours on YouTube once and it stayed there forever. I posted it once, but now lives on at least 5 to 10 platforms forever, including my website, if I have it connected. Even on LinkedIn, if you hit publish, LinkedIn is also able to get your RSS feed and push your content to your connections. So just imagine the power exchange, and all those links have your website links, your booking links, your templates, your booking calls, all those things. It's different. People will be reaching out to you from everywhere. Today, I've been on calls since 5 a.m. this morning. I've been on a call with somebody in Egypt. Somebody else was in Singapore earlier this morning. Somebody else was in Moldova. I've talked to some people in the US, and it's been busy, but it's also been very eventful because I've been able to connect with so many people, and people are doing amazing things. So when I'm connecting with people and I have a little bit of some time to come here and talk, I want to make sure that you guys are getting this information because nobody else is talking about it. You might be hearing it, but how extensively are you getting information? So I have a lot of links to share with you, and some of them are already in the chat. So you can use those to understand what this means for you and what does it mean for your business. So I hope I answered your question, Amanda, because I don't want you to post. Let's say you take 4 hours, not even 4 hours. Let's say you take 12 hours, 4 hours to do makeup, or let's say 1 hour, 2 hours to do makeup, 1 hour, 2 hours to do production. That's already 2 to 4 hours in the day. Then maybe you do post-production for another hour to 2. So you've done about maybe, let's say, 6 hours of just work, and you're sending it to one platform. Just imagine if you sent it to more than one, including YouTube, because YouTube already has a podcast. So as soon as you hit publish, you're already reverse engineering it. So you don't need to hit publish on YouTube, just hit publish on your podcast, and then YouTube gets a copy. That's the best way to do it because you actually I always call podcasting low effort, high impact. But that low effort needs to be so low that if you do it consistently, once a day, once every other day, we have 365 days in a year, sometimes 366. So just imagine you're doing it once a day and you have 24 hours in a day and you spend, like right now, I'm spending some time with you. I may not need to talk about this again because I've already said it. So now a month from now, 3 months from now, someone's going to listen to this and be like, hey, I heard you talk about this. What about this or that? I've already talked about it before and somebody's finding it at their convenient time. I don't know what anyone is doing. I have no say, no control over that. All I know is that when you're looking for something like this, I want you to find it accessible. And some people have found me through Listen Notes. Some people have found me through Google, through Pinterest, through LinkedIn, through Clubhouse. And we don't run ads, but we help clients run ads on billboards, on websites, on Pinterest, and platforms like that. So it's basically how you want to do it and how you can build it can really be a good one. Amanda says, So I'm a local business that doesn't need worldwide attention. Can I start with YouTube? Now, great question. And okay, you are so good. Thank you so much, Amanda. Great questions today. And if you have a question, please put it in the chat. Welcome, Katie, Josh, Bree. Thanks for being here too. And Vicky. If you have a local business, you know why it's so much better for you to be on a podcast than YouTube only? Because YouTube has billions of videos with the same topic, same title, same affinity. So it's hard for you to be singled out. Now, where the tactic comes in is where if you're a local business, the first question I would now ask you, welcome Dr. Fashion, is what is your website looking like? Do you have a website? If you have a website, the next question is that website connected to search engines? If it is, the next question would be, is that website submitted to sitemaps? Have you submitted your sitemaps to Google, to Bing, to all these platforms? Yes, no. If you haven't, that's where indexing begins and crawling begins. So, and you said Facebook and Google. We do not, we have IG. So when you now look at IG, Facebook, and Google, you're on Google because you have a Facebook account or you have an Instagram account. Now, imagine you have a website, and we build websites. So I'd love to help you with that. Please click the link above and you'll see the information right there as you scroll down. It's right there for a website development call if you need a website. Because when I look at your content, it's not just your domain. Most people say, oh yeah, I have a good domain. It has to be like domain plus hosting plus SEO equals to high performance. That's usually the pathway. Welcome, Ifeanyi. So if you have a local business, the first thing is to have a website. And when you have a website, your website is going to be, it's another business. Okay, if you have a business that has a website, that's going to be the starting point for your local targeting. If you type in any mall in the world, any restaurant in the world that you like to go to, you're going to see their local address if they have a brick and mortar location, even though you're searching from across the world, miles away, thousands of miles away, because the internet is World Wide Web semantic based. So you said we have an ice cream bus. Okay, let's talk about that. So if you have an ice cream bus and let's say you have an Apple podcast, instead of how many flavors do you have? Let's go a little deeper into this. And Amanda, if you're available to speak, I'd love to hear from you. I would love to dice this down because if let's say you have 3 flavors, right? You may have way more than that. Let's say you have 3. Okay, let me not guess. Hey Amanda, how are you? Or you're
Can
mute.
you hear me? Okay, I always have the worst. I always the worst thing, so I never go on here. Okay, so as long as you can hear me, that's fine. We have at least like 20 to 25 flavors.
Okay, so out of your 25 flavors, do you have a tier list on like your top tier, your most bought products? Okay, let's talk about that.
Yes, so we have like the basic probably top 5 flavors.
And out of these 5 flavors, when do they rotate? Do they rotate during the seasons, during the weekends? Is it random? Is it scheduled? Maybe like once a week you have an offer? What's the business operation like? Just to give me like a visual explanation.
So we order every week. There's nothing that's crazy stuff. We have your basic. You have vanilla, you have chocolate, and then we just kind of gauge each time kind of what the good flavors are. But we don't have anything like here, get this week or whatever. We just have kind of basic hard ice cream with your stuff. Like it's nothing. Yeah, I don't know what exactly you mean.
Okay. So with the flavors, let's say with vanilla ice cream, for example, I'll just give a random example. I'm going to go to Apple Podcasts right now and I'll type in vanilla ice cream. What do we get? So I hit that. There was an episode that dropped 5 days ago, and that had something to do with ice cream, which is not so relevant. Someone said, okay, 2022, 2025, 2020. So, and I don't really see the word vanilla ice cream in their titles. So this tells me, there's one that I see that was last year, Strawberry Ice Cream Takes Over Barstool Chicago HQ. So those are episodes that have been dropped years ago. That I think the oldest one I'm seeing is 2018. There's an episode about, sorry, 2002. I'm going down the list. So imagine an episode all the way back as far as 2002 is what I'm looking at in 2026. And imagine if you have a specific term, like I just typed in vanilla ice cream, and then I'm listening to you, even though I can't taste the ice cream because I'm far, but I can listen to you. That's still something for me to think about, because if I ever come to your city, I'll be able to look for that and connect with you. Now, what makes your episode pop, or what makes it nice? And because you have an ice cream buzz, just imagine how exciting it will look like for people to watch that. Now, instead of putting that on YouTube, you can put that on your podcast. I'm not saying that YouTube you shouldn't, but you shouldn't stop there. YouTube should be the bypass. You should be where you're putting YouTube content out there for people to connect with you. Let it be authentic, grow your community. It's a great place for discovery. YouTube is amazing for discovery. People binge there. But I don't want you to leave it on YouTube, because when you asked earlier about should I just put it on YouTube and leave it there or do it on my podcast, I would rather do it on the podcast and do it two ways. One, and we're doing this for a client right now. You have one episode. That one episode goes out to YouTube as a copy. But when it goes out to YouTube as a copy, it goes out as an audio version. So your audio version on your YouTube show or your YouTube channel will have the podcast section, and it will have the thumbnail or the cover art of your podcast. That's how people can listen to you on YouTube just by listening base. Let's say it's a video. Now the video will be uploaded directly to the hosting platform. So if it's Spotify for creators, you'll have a video on Spotify. But you won't have it on Apple. Now Apple Podcasts has introduced video. If you upload it on Apple Podcasts with video, you won't see it on Spotify. So that's the thing, because of course they have their conflicts of interest. So when you now look at your podcast and it's showing up and people are, checking it out, you're telling them, here are the flavors we have. Why do we have 25 flavors? What do they all mean? And how do we rotate them? How do people experience them? And let's say people come to your place and they're able to now buy ice cream, and you're recording the experience. You're looking at them. Oh, first taste. This is how it feels like. What's the difference between an ice cream on a bus, between an ice cream in a bakery? You can go in so many ways that there are really no rules. But when we now do our research, we'll be able to now identify who your actual audience is. I just did a random search, so I could get totally anything. But when we start becoming more specific with our target market, and you're focusing on the local market, it's even better. So imagine I write vanilla ice cream in your city, and the name of your city is the name of the podcast title. You know how big that is? Because if you have an episode title and the title has the city or the state in it, it's also going to reflect as a podcast title on YouTube or any other podcast directory that you submitted to. So what you're creating is a compound interest as opposed to just a local base. So you have a website. Your website could have an email list, and then within that email list, you have a podcast. Or you have a website, you have a podcast, and you have an email list. So as you're connecting with people, you're showing up on all these platforms. You don't want to just be sending traffic. You also want to be receiving traffic, tracking traffic, and also tracking the reports based on city, state. If it's based on zip code or by district, we can look at all those things. So why I'm giving you that expansive response is that you don't want to limit your content and spend so much hours on one platform when you could use that same content and expand the lifespan of the content by miles. We've just talked about a 2002 podcast. So imagine 24 years later, rather, from now, you have something like that too. So it's not just about placing it there or why it's there. It's for the purpose of someone finding it. And then when they find your episode, that's when they will now click on your link in the description. And let's say you're local and you have a website there, they're going to check your website and say, oh, you're in the city. Okay, let's check you out. Just like someone checks your Instagram bio, they click on the link, or they go to your YouTube channel, they click on your link. People are always going to click on the link. So if the link is available for them to click on, and they can access it on their podcast player, and they live in the city. And how you will know they're listening, Amanda, is when you now look at your analytics and you realize, oh my goodness, people are listening to me from this city, from this state. So imagine you see the top 5. I'm just giving you like a very random example, but this is what we could actually do and implement for real. Where if you have an episode, let's say you have 5, and now out of these 5 episodes, you have the top 10 cities in your state. And we now do a pop-up in each of those, let's say top 5. Let's say top 5 for 5. So you have a top 5 city list, and you also have a top 5 flavor list. So you match the cities versus flavors, and you're able to now do it that way. And before you know it, it becomes very creative, and it's no longer just a podcast to just pump out content, but you're doing that for the algorithm's sake, and you're also building capacity at the same time. I know it's a lot, but it's something that you can definitely do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Amanda. What's your thoughts on that? And welcome, Teresa.
It's different. It's different putting your mic on now. Oh my God, that was just like a flavor bomb of stuff. I love your city versus flavor stuff. So I'm in Canada, which is a little different. But everything that you ever say is just so like absolutely fantastic. I've been listening to you for like 100 years, and it's just wonderful. I love everything that you said, and I think even though I'm in Canada and we're a smaller thing, I think everything that you said, actually, I wrote a lot of notes down. I think it's fantastic, and I'm going to apply that to it. But also, because I also have another business as a Luminar, which was kind of going down for a bit, and we're trying to kind of revive it. So do you deal with people from Canada? Because I know a lot of stuff is different. I listen to Clubhouse, right? I'm always on Clubhouse, and they talk about everything, but I'm in a different space, right? Because I'm from Canada. Do you deal with people from Canada? Because I just love you. Like, you have so much insight in there. Like I said, there should be like 1 million people in here. There should be 1 million people in here listening to you, because you are incredible. And I love that you have the new product and stuff. People can go in and do that. I absolutely love it. Kudos to you. You should be like a gazillionaire by the end of the year, for sure. But can you help someone from Canada? Like, I love Mr. Pimpleton, but I don't know if he can help me because I'm from Canada. How does that work? Can you do that?
Yes, I can, Amanda. Great question. And thank you so much for the flowers. I appreciate it. And
oh my gosh, for sure. You're like fantastic. And you know what? And the other thing is too, I would love to have other people, but you also I have the conversion rate. So it sounds great. It sounds great in the thing, but it's like, oh, I converted over, and it's like, oh, that's a really lot of money. So I just want to know that people, if I'm going to give my money to someone, I want to make sure that they know what's going on over in my neck of the woods, right?
100%. And also, fun fact, my brother lives in Toronto, so I
Oh
also
my
have some
gosh, I love that.
and I have some family in Calgary too. So
Oh,
I've visited once. I've been to Newfoundland and Labrador before, just one time, and it's amazing. So I've worked with clients not just in the US. Like this morning, I've been up since 5 a.m. I've been on a call with somebody in Egypt. Somebody else was on a call. I was on a call with Singapore. So it's open source, and it's the same business. It's just how we structure it and then match it to your search engine. So I'll definitely love to
yeah,
help you with that. And because I know yours in Canada is provinces and not states, then there's
yeah.
a way I can be more specific with the algorithm and match it to your taste.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to talk to you, because I think I need you. Everyone does. Everyone should need you.
Thank you, Amanda. We all need each other, because with this information, I feel like even though I have a cold, I felt like there's no way I'll just be sleeping and thinking, man, people need to know about this, and I'm just here knowing it by myself. So I always use this as a way to vocalize what I'm hearing, thinking, seeing, and processing, so that you can also see it too. So I'll definitely love to connect with you, Amanda. I put the link above in the room so that you can what Google looks like in your area and match it, and you'll be able to also see it from there. So I'm very visual with the way I present. It's just that Clubhouse is audio based, and now that we're going into video
Yeah,
with Apple
exactly.
and everything,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be happy to share that with you on Zoom when we talk.
Yeah. Where are you
I'm in
based?
Houston, Texas.
I thought you were in Texas. So are you like an hour behind?
Central time is 7:51 p.m. right now.
Oh, you're 7. Yeah, so you're an hour behind. Okay. That's what I thought. You're probably like an hour behind. Yeah, because it's like 10 to 9 here. Okay. Oh, that's perfect. You know what? We'll do what we'll do. I'm gonna take off. But thank you so much. It was wonderful. You're like always the best. Always the best. And I will go on and try to do like I will try to figure out a call because I work too. It's just always very complicated. But thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you do, always. Whether here or in Breakfast with Champions, you're always fantastic.
Thank you, Amanda. I sincerely appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here and share this space with you too.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I'm just going to go onto your calendar.
Important to think about, guys, and I feel like if we do this consistently, it will help us get to a really strong line. I was actually doing some studies today. I'm going to give you all some nuggets here that I don't think I've ever talked about before. I did some metric study this morning, and I think I was just like on the go. So I looked at two platforms. I won't mention them, but there are two platforms that they give podcast scores about, your listen score, your trust score, or your domain score. People call it your power score. You can call it your authentic score. Is just a whole bunch of names. So when you now look at the score, that score, it could be based on different platforms. So one of them, that's why I'm not going to mention which one or the other one, so that you don't know which one is which as well, kind of like a Rubik's Cube. What I did is I looked at these two platforms and I studied the numbers. And it caught my attention that one of the platforms has about 18 to 22 points higher on average than the other platform. So that means, let's say I have a score of 10. That means the other one may have a score of 28 at the very least. So that told me that, okay, if there's 10 here and then there's 18 somewhere, and then it could be flipped all the way to 22, you're like, oh, okay, this is different. Okay, how do we take this from here to there? And it got me thinking that these platforms are great for scaling, which is good. It's good to read the data. But when I noticed that, I actually searched, including my podcast, I searched like 3 podcasts. I searched the Diary of a CEO podcast. I searched Robin's podcast, and I searched another podcast in mine. And I looked at the scores and I realized that each podcast had a range of between that range I mentioned earlier. And I was like, this is interesting. So that told me that if we're planning to build, welcome Nyasha and Drew, if we are planning to build our podcast and we can reach scores, it can be something that can take you to a completely new level. But it's also good to know the metrics. That way you're able to know exactly what's going on in your market and how you're able to put that out there for people to connect with you. Now, I'm going to give you guys a clean picture so you can actually see it. I put it on Threads because I always love to give you research, feedback, evidence. I'm all about it. So there we go. Boom. I put the link in the chat. That's going to take you to my Threads post. Now, it's telling you about the stats. So my podcast reaches about at least 14,000 listeners in a month, at the very least. Welcome, Embler. At least 14,000 monthly listeners, and new episode listeners about 1.7K. So if you think about that, and it has about $4 signs, so that tells me, okay, that's the income per month. It's not going to say per year. It's not going to tell you. It's just going to give you dollar signs. Like when you go to a restaurant, it will tell you $1 sign, $2 signs, $3 signs, $4 signs. If you're going to buy something, it's going to show you those dollar signs. It won't tell you the price. But when you look at the dollar signs and count them, it could range from anywhere from 1,000 to 99.99. So when you now look at the stretch and you're like, okay, people are listening to this podcast, where they're listening from, where they're going, what are the features, what do they like to listen to? And I have a score of 50. When I started, this was like last year, I haven't checked the email, my score was below like 24. It was below that. So every year I always see the podcast increasing over time, because episodes that I recorded years ago are still being listened to today. Welcome Price and Nay and Usman, they're still being listened to today. So because Apple Podcasts have video episodes, and now you can upload your actual video to the platform, it changes everything. It literally changes everything. So if you're thinking about using Apple as a podcast, as a place to extend your growth, it's high time. This is on the top right corner of your thumbnail, or next to where you see the date stamp or the time, I'll call it date stamp. You'll see a video icon there. So that's how you know that that episode is a video on Apple. So if iOS 26.4 is giving this, it's very exciting. And I love the fact that now with Apple Music, they have AI in there where you can say, hey, I want to listen to this type of music, and it's going to curate a playlist for you. And you're asking AI to do it with Apple Music. So I'm saying that if they're starting off with a flagship like Apple Music, don't be surprised if they bring that to Apple Podcasts and you're now using AI to scan for podcasts. So like for you, Amanda, if you're in Canada and people are looking for, hey, give me the best top ice cream, episodes. I want to learn more about how to choose my ice cream, or I'm an ice cream lover, or where can I actually get the best ice creams in the town? And you have an episode on the top 10 restaurants that have the best ice cream in the city. And your episode is there because they listen to you, they're going to trust you first. So you're building a trust score over time. So sometimes when you're thinking about customer acquisition, we may not connect with them at the point of where we think they should connect with us. It's at the point at where they are that you're able to now connect with them long term. So as a business, if you're thinking about using Apple Podcasts for your business, for your podcast show, this is the time to invest in your connections. And the fact that Apple is giving creators 100% control of monetization is a big deal compared to Spotify and Netflix. For you to be on Netflix as a podcast, you probably have to do some submissions. I don't know how that's going to go. It might just be the top 1%. We don't know what that's going to look like, but it's not decentralized. So yes, there might be things there to look at. But when you now look at Apple Podcasts doing that with video, and it's not even up to 48 hours this has happened. Not many people know about this yet. So I'm talking to you about this now. So when you hear about it later, you'll be like, I heard about it before. You're not surprised. How I got to know about this news, honest to God, was through Threads. I was literally on Threads because my Threads is full of podcasters. And I just saw Apple Podcasts for video. Someone was talking about it. I said, what? Is that happening? Is that for real? So I went to Google and I searched and I was like, oh, it's actually for real. And then I went to the actual Apple, and then I looked at my phone, and now told me, oh, you can now update your phone to iOS 26.4. I said, bingo. And then I now looked at Apple Podcasts and I was like, okay, if Apple Podcasts is going to start building it, it's going to start creating that capacity over time, because with your Apple Podcast, now you have leverage, right? Because ChatGPT is going to reference an Apple Podcast. Alexa is going to reference an Apple Podcast. I remember I was on stage here and I said Alexa, and somebody's Alexa turned on in the room. I remember that day. I think it was last week, in somebody else's room. And he was like, yo, responding back. So just imagine you have that power to speak. And when you speak life into your show, you speak life into your podcast, you speak life into people, it's going to help you a long way. Now, Amanda, congratulations on your 5-star reviews of 75. That's a big, 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 big win. Your ice creams or your 25 ice cream flavors are amazing. And now, if I was to ask you, what would you say your top 3 ice cream flavors are that people come to and why? Amanda, if you're there, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm here. What you know what the main thing is, it's not so much that our ice cream flavors are great. It's the experience of the bus. We have like a crazy bus, and maybe I could pull it up and do a thing. The experience of the bus is what everybody absolutely loves. Like it's a school bus that's converted into an ice cream bus, and we have it all decorated and crazy and stuff. So it's the whole experience for us, and everybody loves it. Like the kids, everybody. It's just crazy.
Now, when do you get the most orders? Weekdays or weekends?
Okay. So it's a little different because we have different clientele. So right now we're doing things like, so this is our second kind of season in business. We do schools that are having their parent-teacher night. We are doing the local Maple Fest and the things and the other things that are going on. We're doing Christmas stuff, like we were in the parades. We're doing hot chocolate when people are doing their holiday markets, because we like to change it up and get ourselves out there. We do the old folks' homes when they would like to just go and have like a little bit of ice cream. Like we do a lot of stuff. It's a little crazy. We're not like the we're just gonna say that now. We're not like the regular ice cream guy that comes around with a little, whatever song that comes around. We're very different. We're very different.
I love that. You got me thinking about how you can use your podcast as an extension. The first thing I thought about was, welcome Adeline. The first thing I thought about was your podcast cover art could actually be your bus, your ice cream bus. That in itself is already advertising without budget. Why? Because if someone finds your episode, they find your podcast cover. They find your podcast cover, they find your podcast show. They find your podcast show, they find your podcast website. So when that still continues over time, you're building that, and that's going to get you more connections out there. So imagine you're building your podcast. Instead of posting it on YouTube, you have videos that you've had before, even videos you've posted before that have never surfaced podcasting. You could still use them if they're valuable. And if they also help, you can actually create an episode talking about the 75 reviews and list them one by one and actually talk about them and give people a kind of reminisce of the experience that you had with them, because you mentioned experiences are big for your clients. So now you're using Apple Podcast, or now in video form, to build connections with people that have never tasted or heard about your ice cream bus and ice cream service, that now makes them, like you said, actually makes it different from what they are used to. So when that experience comes in and they're like, oh, this is different, I've never had this before, okay, let me try this out. And now somebody speaks on that, you have 75 reviews. Let's say you break that down into 5 parts. and you have 5 parts and people are listening to it in different ways. By the time they're done listening to those reviews, done listening to you speak, done watching your videos or how you make your favorite recipes or what do you do before you prep, like a day in the life of, there's so many things you can do content wise. That will also allow people to experience you in a very unique way. And the fact that people listen to podcasts and they do it in a very private way also says about how people connect. I think Mark Zuckerberg talked about this long time ago, long time ago. He said that the future of business is private. And that's what we're seeing today. Privacy. We're seeing trust laws. We're seeing ethics. We're seeing compliance. We're seeing things that we need to look at so that as a business, we're also protecting it. And if you have a business too and a podcast, you can turn your podcast into a trademark. So if you have a business and it's trademarked and you have a specific recipe, there's a patent to it, and you've built it that way, your podcast will be that extension. And that way you're able to build connections with people online. So that's why I'm giving this experience. And I'm glad that you're giving us an example, Amanda, because if you think about your business and just replace what we're talking about and put your business in there and use topics, FAQs, topical clusters, handle topics that people actually connect with you on, before you know it, you'll be actually connecting more people that you ever thought you could, instead of running ads randomly or running ads to targeted campaigns that you may know or be aware of, but you could potentially be actually reaching more people without even having to lift a finger all the time, because you're doing a compound interest as opposed to a single interest. So that's where you can make a lot of changes as well. So Amanda, I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well, if that's ever crossed your mind too, or even fits to begin with for your business model.
Yeah, no, it's just, yeah, you're always overwhelming with everything you said, because it's like there's so much that you have to take. There's so much that you have to take into account, and I love it. Everything you say is genius. So, and I've written everything down. So I love it, and I've also scheduled a call. So you guys all down there with your pink tickets, oh my gosh, go on here. Favour is, it really is the best, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for answering my questions. I know I've kind of taken up all the time, but you just go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
I just love it. Thank you.
Forward to connecting with you too. Thank you for booking the call, and I'm excited to meet you. And I know you've been listening, and I know one thing about Clubhouse is welcome Odub is when people listen, and eventually take action, it's different. I met someone today, he's been listening to me, I think, on the app for about 3-4 years now, never said a word. And today I got to connect with him, and it's different now because it's off the app. So I just love to make those connections, because we can talk about this all day here, but I want to take action. I want to show you that this is what is possible. So when I do these actionable things, is because I want you to try them out and try them for yourself. I can't do everything for you, and I just can't. But what I can do to the best of my ability is to give you a head start and give you something that you won't have to spend time, money, and energy that you could have saved on something else, so that you can use it to build your business capacity and also have a long-term business plan for yourself and also for the legacy of your brand as well. So think about podcasting as a place of intellectual property, as a place of proprietary information, as a place of thought leadership, as a place of SEO, as a place of building relationships with people. Welcome, PD and Hermes. These are very important things to consider, because if you have a podcast show and you're using Apple today and you're listening to Apple Podcasts, and now you end up having a video, you know how much more people will listen to that? Because what I'm going to start doing, I'm just telling you now, because I always talk about things before they happen, because I don't want you to be surprised. What I'm going to be doing is, and I've been doing it, but very lightly, and now I feel like these are the signs that are telling me that it's time to hit start or hit, gear 5 or switch gears, is you'll be seeing some episodes and I'll be going to give you deep dives on my screen. Things I'll be showing you on Zoom calls, I'll be showing you on Apple Podcasts exclusively, because one of the platforms that Apple has partnered with is one of the podcast hosting platforms that I'm in. And when I remember I was switching my podcast from Spotify to Art19, by Amazon, I took a month to pray about it, to think about it. This was back in July last year because I had been on Spotify since 2019, August 12th, 2019. So I said, hey, I can't be getting 10% of the data that I'm seeing when I know there's 90% out there that I could acquire. But it took me a while to get that, and I was able to switch. And after I prayed about it and confirmed things, and things were, confirmed to me, I was able to switch. Now, guess what? July was when this happened. Now look what's happening in February 2026. When I started a podcast in 2019, nobody knew there was a pandemic coming in 2020. So there's some things when I think about and I do them, I don't know what's happening in the future. Only God does. All I can do is plan ahead, and the highest form of faith is by planning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I just plan at least a little bit of what I can, even if it's not a lot. Even right now, I'm not feeling the best, but I'm here with you, spending time with you. I could be sleeping. I could be drinking hot coffee or hot soup or hot something, which I will after this. But I said, hey, let me do something. Let me spend some time with you here before I, drink some tea, before I, relax and just wind down, because I've been on call since 5 a.m. this morning and it's 8 p.m. So we're talking about more than a 12-hour shift. So I've been busy and I'm still doing this, still sick, but strong and powerfully healed. And I claim my healing in Jesus' name, amen. And I know that I'm going to do things that will help you get better at what you're doing with your business, with your time, with your consistency, because podcasting is not easy, but consistency is the best thing you can do for yourself. If I didn't start a podcast in 2019, there's no way at all you would see me here on Clubhouse today. I started this and I came here because I knew that if I start a podcast, I want to connect with the world. I want to meet people I've never met before. I want to touch lives. I want to impact people. I want to tell stories. I want to be able to share your stories with the world. And that's what we do. It's not just me talking. My podcast has a lot of interviews. We have over 620 episodes. So I know we're going to hit 700 episodes before June, the way it's going. And it might hit 800 by December, by January. And now that's going to scale up if I now do videos, I'll call them tutorial videos and show you, hey, this is how you do this, how you connect your search console. You know how many times or how much time I've saved? Because if I share with you a 30-minute episode on video that I could have done with you on a Zoom call that you could do by yourself at your earliest convenience, you know how much time we've saved for each other? 30 minutes times 2. Your 30 minutes plus my 30 minutes is 60 minutes of time, because everyone has their own time. So if you're looking at this as a timeline and stretch that, because we can't measure time either, right? We now look at how much time can we put in the day to push this even further. So if I have this episode and people listen to this episode and you thank you for listening, and now people are gaining information and they're actually doing it for themselves. They probably didn't know that this is happening and now they do. That's trust that has been enabled. That's why my trust score is big. My domain authority on my website is 50. My podcast score is 50. These are big scores because platforms like LinkedIn, Pinterest, they're 90. And on average, websites domain authorities average between 0 or 1 to 30. So you start hitting the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, that's a big jump, because that means your website has quality content. People have shown up there before, they've gained value, they've saved it to their bookmarks, they've probably printed the page, they've probably, shared the link, or they've clicked the link, or they've come back after some time. I've shown you an episode today that was from 2002, so it's definitely possible. Yes, Amanda, I would love to hear from you too.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. You were just like such on a roll. But I had done a thing on Anchor. So I had recorded a few things on Anchor. Is that still something that's viable even anymore? Because that was like a long time ago.
Yes, Anchor is now what they call podcasts or Spotify for podcasters. So they call it Spotify for creators, and then they changed it to, I think it was Spotify for podcasters and changed to Spotify for creators. Yes, because you can go to creators.spotify.com. Yeah, I have a photographic memory, so I'm just trying to track back. So yeah, creators.spotify.com. So when you go there, that is the Anchor you're referring to, Amanda. So Anchor.fm is still going to be your RSS feed, which is there. It's RSS stands for really simple syndication. So even if you have your creators.spotify.com account, That means you can upload videos, you can upload audios for free and connect to the world. Where you start to have I would say, a leap and a bound over your competitors is when it comes to distribution. Because a lot of people have podcasts on Apple, on Spotify, but there's so many other platforms that they could be on. Pandora, SiriusXM. These are radio platforms people use when they're in their cars. And the top 3 places that people listen to podcasts, the number 1 place is, I can say it this way, when they're getting ready. Secondly, when they are on the road, on the go, when they're active. And 3, when they're at the gym or when they're, having some passive time. They could be doing laundry, they could be doing something. These are times that people are listening, and this is when they're in high productivity. People are driving, they're thinking. People are cooking, they're thinking. People are doing something productive, they're at the gym, they're thinking. So whatever words they're hearing is going to increase by the power of so many compound interests. Tell me, when was the last time you were watching a TikTok video or an Instagram video or YouTube short while doing sit-ups or while, jogging? It's hard because you want to focus on why you're outside or why you're on the treadmill or why you're on the Stairmaster. So if you're listening to a podcast and it's in video mode, but you switch to audio mode, it changes everything completely. So when you think about your business and you think about your goals, how do you structure your business in a way that you can start connecting with people? I've been on calls. I'm even getting a call now. I've been on calls with clients. It's to the point where sometimes I'm like, hey, I think my do not disturb it doesn't work, because it's like, how do you consistently build but don't burn out either? So that's why I do these things in very small snippets, so that when you're thinking about these things that you mentioned, Amanda, it's going to be helpful for you long term to see the trajectory of your business grow even beyond what it is right now. Because right now you could be using, like you said, Facebook and Instagram, and that's where people are connecting with you. But imagine if what you're posting on Instagram and what you're posting on Facebook is in actual audio formats, and you're recording it, and now you're putting it on Anchor, which is now the Spotify platform, and you upload your content. When you upload your content, people find it, if it's a video and audio, and they can listen, they can download. So yes, to your question, you can still use the platform, but if it's been a while, you may need to relog in, because here's a disclaimer. I think this was a couple of years ago. I don't remember precisely when, but their login system changed. So before, you could just log in anchor.fm and you could just put your email and password and log in. Now you switch it to having a Spotify account. You now have to actually have a Spotify account signed up, and that's how you have access to the Spotify platform. So if you've not done it in years, Amanda, you may need to do that, but it may redirect you, and that's just a little perk of it. But it's something that you can do, and you won't have to worry about that. If that's something you plan to do, we can do that on our call and talk about it and then structure it out so that you're able to see where it can take you. But with your podcast, you will do so well, and people can listen to you all over, and you can even read the analytics on your dashboard. So if people are listening to you in Canada, in different provinces, you will see exactly where they're listening to you. And from there, you can start building connections. I started thinking about what you could do too with QR codes. Imagine you have a lot of foot traffic. So if people are listening to your podcast, whether it's video or audio, and we can do those things as well. So I'm really excited for that too. You said we can on our call from my other business, for sure. And when you look at those things long term, as soon as you answer a question and you give somebody the response, it's good, especially if it's long. Some people like long episodes because they're like, wow, this thing is 1 hour, it's 2 hours. I can hear so much. Or I can use AI to scan this text. You can use platforms like Harpa AI, with an R, like a harp, like a playing harp, Harpa AI. You can use that too. There's so many platforms you can use to scan videos, transcribe, do a lot of things with agents, and build your system. So right now, there's no holding back. You have to think about it as a business owner and ask yourself, what are we spending, time or money? Right now, I'm spending time. The money will come. I don't know when, but because I've planned ahead of time, it will happen. I'm not thinking about the money. I'm thinking about the impact. So when people reach out, connect, hey, let's talk here, let's book here, let's do this, it happens. When you're referred to and you're connected with, it happens. But when you spend that quality time with people, it helps. Some people tell me on the calls, hey, thanks for being patient. That's one thing I hear across with different clients. I'm patient with them. My patience is way up. I can be waiting for you and you think that something is wrong, I'm still waiting because I want to spend time with you to make sure that your quality time is well done, because I don't want to just rush you off a call because we hit the 30th minute if we haven't finished. But if I know that it requires more time, then we'll extend it. So we have to be very conscious of these things, and we think about how much time we spend online. So to the discussion of today, iOS 26.4, Apple Podcast video episodes, Business Unlocked. This is the time to start your business with a podcast. If you haven't, now is the time to. If you have a local business, even better, because you don't have to spend money on ads. And very soon, I'm going to be coming back to talk about like restaurant SEO, because on my analytics, I've been seeing a lot of people listening to like Uber Eats, DoorDash. There's a new platform called Caviar. If you like DoorDash and Instacart, there's a platform called Caviar. It's an extension of DoorDash. So I know a lot of things in my head. Sometimes I'm like, how do I know all these things? And I just keep talking about them. That's because I just learn, and I relearn, and I'm able to use it and connect. So when I say these things out, I don't have to think about them again, because somebody else is going to listen to it on LinkedIn or YouTube or Clubhouse or somewhere on Google, and the problem is solved. So the goal is to make sure that as you build your business, answer questions people are asking. I came here with an answer to a question people are asking. How do you set up your Apple Podcast video for your show? And I've told you there are places that you can actually do that. And right now it's in beta. Not everyone has access to it. So why I'm saying this now is when spring comes and people are looking for this episode, it's right here. So literally, I'm planting seeds for the future that I do not know what's going to happen. If it rains, if it pours, if it storms, I don't know. But what I know is that it's something I put in the ground. So that's the goal. And that's how you're able to do podcasting with intentionality. Don't do episode 001 dash. Start off with your topic of interest, whether it's marketing, ice cream, restaurants, real estate, food, whatever it is that's very specific, have it at the beginning. Because anything you do has a / after the domain. And if the first word is not the word you want people to type and you're seeing episode -1 this dash and then the keyword, you've already missed over 50% of your activation time or reading time. So these are things to particularly look into. They may be very small, but little drops make a big ocean wave. So if you think about this long term, you can think about it as a way of just working on it one by one. It doesn't have to be today. It's just going to be when you have the time to. And when you do it correctly, you do it well. So if you have any questions, put it in the chat. And thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Amanda. I pray I get well ASAP. Like as soon as I wake up in the morning, I want to be good. So I know that that's going to happen for sure, because I don't get sick. And when these little things come, I'm just like, okay, distraction. I just got to go through it and get over it. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. No one has any other questions. I'm going to cover this today and do this and focus on the next topic. So if you're listening to this and you don't have iOS 26.4, get into the Apple beta program as a developer if you want to do it. If you don't have to do it, that's totally fine. You can wait for the release to happen to everyone. But I have it and I see those things because I'm an alpha tester. I like to look at things before they actually happen because I like to see things from scratch. You can give me like a whole scratch surface and I can turn that into a whole canvas. So I like to do that because I like to be creative. So if you're listening to this and you want to get your podcast out there, listen to the information I mentioned, and also click the links in the description because there's some news that you can actually get as updates. So thank you for being here, Drew. Thank you, Embler, for being here, PD, Excellence, and anyone as well that was here listening. I hope you have a wonderful night and enjoy the rest of your day. If you like tacos, happy Taco Tuesday, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you, Drew.
If you have reached this point of the episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the We Don't Play podcast show. I hope this has helped you, given you some insight, because every time I come on here or anytime I bring somebody on here, a guest, a speaker, anyone that is of relevance to you listening is always going to give you educational value, definitely entertainment value, and most importantly, empowerment value. So thank you for listening to the We Don't Play podcast show every day. And if you want to reach out to me, you know where to find me. Click the links in the description or go to info@playinc.online, info@playinc.online, and book a call. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk SEO. Let's talk marketing. Let's talk business. Let's talk scaling. And I look forward to meeting you and learning more about you and your business. Till we meet in the next episode, have a blessed evening. Have a blessed day, night, wherever you are in the world. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye for now. And don't forget, Jesus loves you.